standing wonderful friend, Philip Henry, uh, previously of the Two Bears podcast. Phil, how are you?
Hi, Trev. I am fantastic, but yeah, thanks for that introduction. That's probably the best introduction I've ever had in my life.
I doubt that very much, Phil, because you are a man who radiates positivity and good vibes, which is well known in our area in Ashford. And Phil is a good bloke. And due to I suppose it's not really unforeseen circumstances. I just think that the Two Bears podcast was people liked it, all six of them, and we enjoyed doing it, didn't we? But just
We
through
did.
time and I don't really know what, Phil. It just kind of it didn't die, but it's just kind of I don't know. It's like a sort of fish just sitting on a side, slowly flapping away, not really doing anything with it, are we, Phil? Really?
Well, yeah, I think the big thing really is that it's time, isn't it? And it's
Yeah,
not even time management. It's kind of it's hard to find the time to do what you need to do
yeah.
normally, and then you add something in. And I don't know if people are aware of what goes into making a podcast, but even the little setup you've got there with your microphone and your headphones and setting up the Zoom, it might only be 10, 15, 20 minutes, but you can't leave it set up like that because you've got young children that will come in and just tear it apart. And
As
then
Phil's
you've got
seen
all
many
the,
times. Yeah.
yeah, you've got all the kind of editing stuff afterwards, and you've got all the advertising bits, and the list just goes on and on and on, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
it is really hard time wise. So you're doing an amazing job.
It is hard time wise. However, I did. It was important to me that you were the first guest on the new Liquid Choices podcast because you and I have done some absolutely fantastic things together, as far as I'm concerned, and we've had some amazing times. Whether it's recording in my little shed in Willsborough, do you remember that when we started?
I do.
Freezing cold with little heaters around our knees.
Sneaking around in COVID times, keeping
Yeah,
our
yeah. Oh God,
distances.
yeah, we did, didn't we? Yeah. And yeah, then some slightly more professional setup now. But yeah, man, like you were always going to be the first guest, and that makes me very happy. And I want you to talk a little bit about you and about what your journey to elevating yourself, if you like, has been. And one of the interesting things there you said was about time, and that's the issue is that you're a very busy man, Phil. Do you want to give us a quick run through of like your days and your nights, what you're doing, what sort of stuff, because it's busy times for you pretty much on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, you've caught me in downtime because obviously it's summer holidays.
Yeah.
But even then, I've after this, I will send you. I've recorded my first song. I'll send it to you later.
Yeah, boy.
Just been messing around on the old Audacity. So having a bit of me time and things like that is kind of really crucial, and that's what I found has really led me to where I am now. But yeah, teaching. I'm a local specialist teacher, and I do all sorts of outdoor learning and forest school and that sort of thing. So that takes up 3 of my 5 working days. The other two are I'm self-employed. I do a Bundu bushcraft, which is I'm sure if you search on social media, you'll find it somewhere. And that works with disenchanted children in education, but also looks at the importance of forest school and outdoor learning in education. I also do at the weekends archery birthday parties, bushcraft birthday parties, and then on top of that, I come from a split family, so I don't get to see all of my children. However, they're mostly all grown up. I mean, I think Meg's 28. Yeah, must be 28 now, 29 maybe. Ethan is 24, 25. Noah's nearly 20. And Quinn, my baby, is turning 15 very
Yeah.
soon.
It's
So
mad.
he takes up, yeah, I mean, he takes up quite, when I say quite a bit of time, I actually dedicate time for him to actually be the dad that he needs around. And we have this like proper good times.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then yeah, and then family, and then trying to fit a relationship in with that poor Viv gets dragged along, and a lot of the times it's like, no, can't do that, no, can't do that, no, can't do that. Yeah, let's do that. Oh, so we very religiously have at least a holiday a year where we go either camping, or this year we went to Wales, North Wales.
Nice. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
We're going to come on to that, Phil, aren't we? But I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you've done yourself. Yeah, I mean, Phil's missed out, which we'll talk about in this episode. His fitness regime, which takes up a lot of nights. How many nights a week do you do that? 4, 5?
6.
6, right? So Phil's got to squeeze in that as well. He's also done himself a little bit of a disservice on the SEN front. I mean, I met Phil through our sort of shared love, is that the right phrase, of sort of helping disaffected children, which we do. I mean, and like that's what Phil did was he sort of the Bundu Bushcraft thing he came in and did at the school I was working at the time, and I worked with him there, and that's kind of how we met. And what Phil did was eye-opening to me, because it was taking children out of the classroom, which is, in my opinion, a sterile, unnatural environment for most humans, let alone children, especially children of SEN. And he took them out into the wilderness, the forests. I mean, I'm not sure how wildernessy you can get in Folkestone, but I mean, it was kind of, we went out into the undergrowth, if you like. And Phil taught them things that were, you know, natural and interesting, and nothing to do with PlayStations and English exams and so on. And it was a real, it was literally a breath of fresh air. It was the most enjoyable part of most of the kids' weeks, and certainly my weeks. So yeah, I mean, Phil was a busy boy. He fights the good fight, and it's a real, you know, you do some good stuff, man. Which I
Thank you.
And as a dad as well. I mean, we could probably, and we have done, if anyone's interested, check out the Two Bears podcast on all good streaming platforms, because there are probably a number of episodes where we've talked in depth about our family issues. And you know, Phil and I both, you know, have separated families where the kids are partly with mum, partly with Phil's is slightly different and slightly more disjointed than that, but we're not going to get onto that today, but we
no
have a podcast. You know, like with life, there's a lot of negatives, a lot of positives, but you know, the vibe today is elevating yourself. And I think for me, I've watched Phil kind of for the last few years. You know, I think it's fair to say, Phil, that you weren't happy with your weight. When I met you, when we started hanging around for good, properly, like when I moved to Ashford and stuff. And you have done some, I would say, significant work through a great deal of perseverance to change that. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it would have been about 18 months, maybe 2 years ago. I decided I was going to go back to the gym. No, maybe it was just before COVID. So what was that, 2019, 2020? I decided I was going to go to the gym, and I had like a month in the gym, and then all the gyms closed down. And I was like, oh, and I was going to get so fit and so buff. And I was damn this COVID. And I went back to eating and drinking. And then we came out the other side, and I was like, no, I am going to do it. I've paid for gym membership, and the gym that I was with were very good. They didn't take any gym membership money while I wasn't going. So I was like, I'll be loyal. They were good to me. I'm going to go back. And I trained for about 6 months on my own. And I went religiously maybe two, 3 times a week. And I thought I was great. I was kind of shifting. Well, at the time, I was kind of shifting half decent weights, and I was swagging around the gym, and I'd come home and stand in front of the mirror and flex and things like that. And then as I was walking out of the gym one day, I bumped into a couple of the personal trainers there. And they were just, it was really, I mean, their job is to be a bit fun and a bit quirky and get you to sign up with them. But I really clicked with this one particular lad, Dan, who now trains me. And I got his card, and I was kind of, you know, when you bubble something over in your head for a little while, and I was like, oh, maybe I should. I mean, maybe if I did a couple of sessions with him and he showed me what he knew, and I could take it. And obviously, because he won't be able to keep up with me, you know, I was like flexing the mirror again. And so I think I insta messaged him, and he said, yeah, come along. I'll give you a first session for free. We'll see how it goes, or come along, have a chat, whatever it was. And we did that. So I went along, I was like, yeah, I'm looking to lose a bit of weight, tone up. My goal isn't that much. I just want to look just like Arnold Schwarzenegger did in his late teens, early
Yeah.
20s.
Yeah, no pressure.
No pressure, Dan. What can you
Just
do?
get it done.
Um, and and honestly, my first two sessions with Dan, I felt sick.
Yeah.
Halfway through my first session, I was like, "I can't do it, Dan. I'm actually going to throw up." And he's like, "It's all
Yeah.
right. I'll go and get a bin. I want you to be sick." I was like,
Oh, nice.
"Okay."
Nice.
So
Nice.
he really, over the course of like the next couple of months, really pushed my limits and um, had me doing things that I never thought I would do with weights that I never thought I would do. Um, so for the last, I think it's been just coming up for a year. I've been working with Dan. I think it's about 9 months. Um, I'm now, yeah, deadlifting about 220 kilograms, benching about 120, 130. But I'm learning things that I never knew before, like lower compound movements and upper compound movements and all these other that I just pass me by. I know what a leg day is. I know what a push
Yeah.
day is. I know what a
Yeah.
pull day. All these words that I never knew before. So it's just been fantastic, and he
It,
has been a great motivator.
he's yeah. I mean, I follow you. I mean, I've never met Dan, but I watch your sort of posts on Instagram and stuff, and he seems like he's fun. You seem to have developed a nice friendship and a bond. And the way he's done that is got you out of your comfort zone on your first
Yeah.
meeting, which is amazing. Because if it was someone on the street and said, "Right, I'm going to make you be sick," and the first time you met him, you probably wouldn't be mates with him. But obviously, it's his job, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, Phil, because one of the things to do with the movement, I suppose I'd call it the consciousness movement, where I think a lot of people nowadays are moving from what they've been told is going to make them happy to kind of working out for themselves what it is that is making them happy. And I think a lot of that is to do with being prepared to undo your programming that you've learned from a kid, which could, and in most cases, could be complete rubbish in some areas, and coming fundamentally, like I say, out of your comfort zone to try something new and different. So I suppose when he said that to you about being sick and you were feeling, what were your thoughts? I mean, it must have been interesting at the
Well,
time, but I mean, yeah, good.
I mean, quite literally, when you're in the gym and you're surrounded by people, you don't really know how much of the equipment works. You don't know any of the people. You're really nervous, and you've pushed yourself, or you've been encouraged to push yourself to the point where it's taking your body completely out of the comfort zone, and you feel like you're going to be sick. And I just turned to him and I was like, I'm literally going to be sick. And his reaction of, okay, that's fine. Be sick in this bin. It's fine.
That's amazing.
And yeah, and I was kind of like, what? It's okay to be sick in the gym. He's like, well, it isn't, but at least we're controlled
Don't make a
and we've
habit
done
of it.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And it's the other little things, because obviously I'm very aware of my weight and things like that. So going on things like treadmills and rowing machines, I'm really scared that I'll end up breaking it or
mm,
damaging it because of the weight. And so I wouldn't do certain things. And Dan's like, stop being so stupid. Just get on it and do it. If it breaks the company, or buy a new one. Don't worry about it. I'm telling
yeah,
you to get
yeah,
on and
yeah,
do it.
yeah.
And then you're walking on the treadmill, and I'm kind of doing maybe 3.5 kilometers an hour sort of speed. And he's pushing out to 4.5 or 5 kilometers, 5.2 kilometers. And then he's putting an incline on it. And I'm like, Dan, I can't do this. I would never have pushed myself that much. And then he's saying things to me like, we're going to try running next week. And I'm like, no, Dan, look at me. I don't run. And he's like, I am looking at you, and you do run. You can
Yeah,
do it.
yeah,
And he's like, I don't want you to run for 5 kilometers. I want you to do like a 10-second run and 20 seconds off and 10-second run. And all of a sudden, you find you're running on a treadmill, or you're doing the assault bike, or you're doing sled pushes with your PT standing on top of it. It's
yeah.
just crazy.
So you've got, so basically he, you know, the making you come out of your comfort zone was, I presume, quite terrifying in the first instance when you're vomiting in a bin in a public place in the town that you grew up in. You're quite recognizable, Phil, you know, as you well know, you know, people know who you are. You've worked in the area. So you've gone from kind of probably absolute terror to then the feeling after being what would you say?
Well, it's kind of it's not excitement. I mean,
Yeah.
there is a bit of excitement in there, but it's that sort of accomplishment. You know, it's like I did it. I
Yeah.
did it. I didn't die. I didn't fall down, have a heart attack, and die. You know, I've survived.
We're still here. Yeah.
Um, and I think everybody. I'm going to really kind of. I don't wish to diminish anyone who has any mental health issues or illnesses or anything like that. But I really do believe that everybody suffers with their mental health at some point. We just, it's just maybe on a different varying level. So you're kind of, you might be able to put it all inside and bottle it, and then every so often it comes out, or you might just always teeter at a certain level. But when you get into the gym, and I'm not saying the gym is the cure for it all, but I do think going big it helps. When I'm lifting, when I'm doing a massive deadlift, the first time I ever lifted 200 kilograms off the floor, I didn't know and I didn't care who was in the gym. I didn't know and I didn't care about all the problems that I have, or the issues, or the ongoing emails that need replying to, or nothing cared. I
Yeah.
didn't even care the fact that I was breathing. I didn't care that I was, I've got grey hair. I didn't. Nothing mattered. The only thing that mattered was lifting that bar off the floor, and it needed my complete focus. And it was just incredible. And
Yeah.
the endorphins that it releases, it is addictive. And you hear about these marathon runners and these ultra runners and these triathletes, and it does seem to be in the world of sport. And just a quick in brackets here, I've just started watching that at home with the Tysons,
Oh yeah,
or
yeah.
with the Furies, or
Furies,
whatever it
yeah,
is,
yeah.
Tyson Furies, yeah. And and it just shows that the boxing and the input that has changes his mental health. And it could be anyone could find whatever it is, writing books, writing music, sport, um, art. It could be any of those things that does it. And I think, as a side note, it's probably worth saying that that's where maybe alcohol comes into it, because once you're drinking, once you're on the booze, it takes away from those mental health issues that everybody has. You can drink your worries away, or you can sweat your worries away, or you
Yeah.
can paint your worries, or whatever it is. And it just kind of, and that's where it's been. It's been a goal for me just to get in the gym. And now I wouldn't say I'm addicted to it, because I've just had 9-10 days off, and it's been really
Yeah.
hard getting back into it.
Yeah.
um
But you did 220 deadlifting, yeah? On your
220, yeah, is where I'm maxing at the moment.
well
And I did
done.
200 for two on
Yeah.
Tuesday, which was my first day back, which is, I mean, you go back 6 months and I was kind of pushing 180 or pulling 180 off the floor, and getting to 200 was like a milestone. Now I'm doing 200 for two. And I reckon I probably had another one, maybe another two in me as well. I could have done
Yeah.
200 for four. And that's just incredible. It just shows where the strength is coming from, and how it's growing. And yeah, it's just amazing.
It's interesting, yeah, mate. I just want to, there's loads of things I want to unpick in there, but going back to the point about alcohol, I think I just want to make the point that I think if you were drinking heavily, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing. And I think
No.
that, you know, I think the people, you know, obviously I think when you grow up, you're sort of 17, 18, 19, whatever, you think that alcohol, like you say, does get rid of your problems, and it does temporarily, but then it brings back your problems tenfold the next morning when you're still haven't sent that email, and now you've got a splitting headache, and you've texted three people at 3 o'clock in the morning something you shouldn't have texted them, and do you know what I mean, all those other things
Yeah.
that have gone on. So I think you're absolutely right, but what I think people are searching for with the search for, you know, booze and the oblivion that booze gives you, is they're searching for that out of body experience, which you sort of are having. doing. And like some people call it a flow state, you know, where you're like, and I've done it, you know, you've probably been there as well, where you're making music or something like that, or doing something creative, and you're like, literally, time doesn't exist, nothing exists. I'm just here as part of the connection to the universe, making this thing, and it's a beautiful, beautiful moment. And I think that's you get that, you do get that with exercise and with what you're doing. And I think you know, you're having out of body experiences because you're challenging yourself and you're pushing yourself out of that comfort zone, and you're improving, you know, and you know that every time you go there, what you're doing is you're achieving something more that is productive for you, it's productive for your family, it's productive for the community, because fundamentally the energy that you're sending around to everyone around you is positive, because you feel good, you're doing better, you're being better. And that's quite an amazing thing, you know. And from the journey you've come from, where, you know, you were, I would say, fairly, I wouldn't say you were generally unhappy, but you knew you were overeating, I think. And I'm not judging, because my lifestyle choices were the same, I think, in a lot of cases. But, you know, perhaps not choosing the right things in life and so on. And to where you've come now, it's quite unbelievable, Phil. You must feel pretty buzzed.
I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, when I got up this morning and my legs ache because it was a bit of a leg day, and I was thinking to myself, why the hell am I doing this? But they've warmed up now and I feel fine. I was like, I know why I was doing it, because I was pushing 125 kilos on a sled pull and then pulling it and then doing all these other bits. And I'm a great fan of that Ethan Suplee. I don't know if anyone's ever watched My Name is Earl. He plays the chubbier brother on there, the slightly chubby brother on there, who has completely turned his weight around and has done it all through lifting weights. And I was listening to his podcast, and he was talking about something called Kill Your Clone. And he said that every day you wake up, you want to be slightly better than you were the day before. Now, that might be that yesterday you had a chocolate bar, but today you're not going to have that chocolate, or just have half the chocolate bar, because you want to be able to kill the you that was from yesterday, because you want to be better.
Yeah.
You know, you only did 45 minutes in the gym yesterday, so you're going to do 50 minutes today, or you only walked 10,000 steps, so you want to do 10,500 steps today. It's just making those little changes, tiny, tiny changes, and getting better and better and better, and consistency of just being there, turning up and doing it.
Yeah, it does, and it makes you better, and you feel better. And I think it's across disciplines, isn't it? Because for me, I've tried really hard to weight train, and it just does not give me the buzz that I know it gives a lot of people. You know, I prefer sort of long sort of stretch cardio. So I've been in the gym doing sort of 60-minute cardio sessions. I did a 5.5 mile run 2 days ago, or yesterday, whenever it was. What day is it? When I did it on Wednesday. So it's Friday. So yeah, and my legs, I went off. I've been on holiday like you for 10 days, and I've been doing little runs and a bit of uphill training on holiday. And I did this run on Wednesday, and I went off really quick. And I was like, I'm quicker than I normally am, and I can feel I'm quicker. So I did the whole run quicker, and I'd got 15 like achievements on Strava. It's like, so I was like really pleased in my fastest 5k and all that. But then on Thursday I was achy, and normally I'm not achy after I run. So I knew that I'd come out of my comfort zone. I knew that I'd pushed myself a little bit harder, and I know that on Saturday, tomorrow, I'm going to run again, and yeah, I'm going to push myself again, and I'm going to try and achieve that. And again, it's like you say, it's that out of body experience. And while I'm running, you know, there is part of me going, what are you doing? Like, this is insane. Like, it's really hurting and it's painful. And then you just keep going, and you get to little sections, and time sort of passes, and you go past, I'm nearly there. I'm over halfway now. I'm nearly at 3/4 now. And then, you know, on that home stretch, you come back, and there is just a feeling of total elation. And I sit in the garden with my shoes off, grounding myself to the ground. And, you know, I just feel like that is the place that I want to be, because I feel more connected and more positive. And I think, you know, the message that I guess we're saying is your starting point can be anywhere, can't it? So people listening to this, you know, just be aware that I was 22 stone. I owned a bar. I was drinking 10, 12 pints a day. And I remember seeing you actually, Phil, I think you were with Quinn across the road, and I saw you walking down the road in Folkestone. I think you're getting ice cream or something like that. And it was many
Yeah.
years ago. And I was like, hey, Phil, look, yeah, come in the bar, come in the bar. And you were a bit like, oh, no, I haven't got time. So, and I always thought about that. And I thought, you know, I'm quite glad you didn't, because I was a totally different person there, and I wasn't the person that I am now. And I think that, you know, you can start from any point that you're at. And this whole concept, people are like, oh, well, I'm too unfit to do that, or I'm too fat to go to the gym, or I'm too. It's bollocks, man. You've got to just get out there and make a start. And if you run for 2 minutes, or you lift 10 kilograms at the gym, just go and do it, and then tomorrow you're going to do 11, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, I can categorically say that if you went to any running club or any gym or anything else, and you're overweight and obese, morbidly obese as I am, nobody laughs at you. Not but nobody laughs at you. In fact, they probably have more respect, because you've turned up, you've gone to the gym, you've gone for a run, you've gone for a swim. You know, it's kind of, no one thinks, oh, look at that fat person trying to lift the weight. Look at that fat person on a treadmill trying to run. They don't think that.
They don't care.
In fact, they don't care. They really don't care, because that's all in your head.
Yeah.
It's, and if anyone ever does have the time to look and observe around the room, they'll probably be quite respectful and quite impressed that you've got off your ass and gone and done something. So yeah. Absolutely.
Mate. And I think, you know, it's interesting. Like, honestly, it's the biggest myth. Like, I when I was younger and I started running for the first time, we always used to call it the running fraternity, because when you're out running, like, people, it's like nods and winks from the other runners, and a bit of a high five sometimes, and it's like a little group, a little secret society, like the Masons, you know, of people who do. And it's the same thing, isn't it? I think you go to the gym and there's like a sort of a silent, tacit respect, isn't there? You know, you're not, you know, and people literally, and it's yeah, that is one of the best bits of advice I ever had, is that, like, from a therapist once, that, you know, you're not really important. And that it sounds horrible, but it's not meant to be horrible. It's like, you know, the world will keep turning, life will keep going on, whether you're in it or not. And it's the same sort of sentiment with regards to this, because you're going in there thinking, oh my God, do I look fat in my leggings? And it's like, no one is bothered, because they are bothered about making sure that they get their sets done before they've got to go and pick up the kids, or what. Do you know what? Everyone is in their own little bubble. So just, you know, take the first step, whatever that first step is, and get onto the road. And I think if you could do that, it makes a massive difference. I was going to say to you, Phil, what does your coach ever talk about BMI?
No, he doesn't.
Is that because he thinks it's, because my point that I'm trying to make really is that I don't take much stock in it, because you just said that I'm morbidly obese, and I was thinking, well, you're not really, like, in my eyes, because, and yeah, I know BMI might say this or whatever and put you at a score, but you think, like, I don't know whether that's even a real thing, man. I mean, I appreciate you've got to have a way to kind of get people who are dangerously overweight down, but I just not sure I take much stock in BMI.
Well, I don't either. I mean, even if I reckon I trimmed down and got all the fat off and everything, I do not think I would be less than about 18 and a half stone, which is my goal, really.
Yeah.
That still puts me at about a 35 BMI, which is still overweight.
That is so true. I like, my goal weight is 15 and a half stone, which again would keep me in, like, the overweight or whatever bracket. But I would look, I'm telling you now, I would look gaunt or skinny to you and to people like who know what I'm normally like. So yeah, I think, again, that sort of stuff, you just, like I say, you know, in your heart of hearts, you know how you feel with this sort of stuff. And I think trust that really more than anything else.
Are you sleeping well? Do you have like, have you managed to get rid of certain things? Like, I used to suffer with really bad acid reflux of an evening time because I probably ate too late and I ate the wrong stuff. That's gone.
Yeah.
So already I'm thinking, well, it's got to be healthier for me because I'm not putting like the omeprazole or whatever it is in my stomach to try and control my acid reflux. So I'm not putting that into my body. I'm like, right, well, that's okay. Do you have high blood pressure? No, I don't have high blood pressure. But if I did, what could I do? I could walk more. I could do. It's all about controlling those. You know, there's those things. Are you pre-diabetic sort of thing? And you're like, oh yeah, well that's happened. That's happened. What have I got to do? Well, I've just got to make sure. So if you can get rid of all those bits, then you've got to be healthy, haven't you? It's
yeah. I
your
think
BMI. I think is.
I just, yeah, I'm very much on the tip at the moment of alternative thinking, and I've sent a few people that Joe Malone interview, which I think is fascinating. It's a 2-part thing, and where he says, like, you know, we're told all this stuff from birth, and we are programmed to believe it because we're programmed to trust and believe the people in authority. But fundamentally, from the off, they've lied. Santa being the first and prime
Yeah.
observations. And it's kind of like the BMI thing. Yeah. And there are people who will probably listen to this and go, yeah, well, scientists say that this, and this, and actually you're wrong about this. And that's fine. And whatever. I'm not a scientist. I'm not trying to be a scientist or whatever. But I do fundamentally believe that what you feel and how you feel within yourself, for me, has got to be the number one guiding point or thing for you, guiding light for you for your journey. It's like I had a little bit of a debate which got a little bit personal with a mate of mine because I've decided to do 2 weeks going vegan, and he was like, oh, we need to have an intervention with you. And I was like, that bit was funny, but then he was like, oh, you've been duped by the by this whole sort of veganism, it's a fad, it's a trend. I was like, I get it, I know what you're saying, and I know you're right in a lot of ways, but like I have decided that I'm not going to eat animals for 2 weeks because that it makes me feel better if I don't do it. So I'm not judging you. I'm not judging anybody else who eats meat. I've eaten meat for 42 years on and off, you know. So like, it's not a judgment, but it's like in my heart, I feel, or inside me, I feel a bit better, a bit lighter, a bit happier if I'm not doing it. So is that not a good guiding point? Do you know what I mean?
Well, it is, and that's that. I think you've just gone full cycle into round to where we were, because people seem to think that they have to have someone tell them to be vegan, or have to tell them to not go to the pub, or tell them to not go to the gym, or to go and eat McDonald's, or to go and have a pint, or to go and do this. And the thing is, it's in your head. If your head says, I don't want those fish and chips because I know I've got to have a run later and it's going to make me feel sick, you go, I'll have a salad. Or I'm not going to have the chips, I'll just have the fish. You're making your own mind up. That is empowering you. So if you want to be vegan, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. It's like these influencers on Instagram and TikTok and things. They contradict each other the whole time. There's a feud going on at the moment between, I think his name is Jamie Smith and Eddie something or other, and they're at each other. One saying that, you know, this is rubbish and don't drink this, and you can't have a Mars bar, and he said you can have a Mars bar to help you lose weight, and then the other ones come back and said, no, I've said if it keeps you on track, have a Mars bar, you know, let that be in part of your diet, don't take it away. And he's going, but you can't have this is just crap, this is full of sugar, processed, blah blah blah. And this is going, I know it is, but I'm saying it's this. And you're just like, do you know what? I know if I want a Mars bar. I know if I need a Mars bar. I've got a very simple rule that I employ now. I don't have any sweets, any biscuits, any chocolate. That's a massive lie. There's a packet of biscuits